San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
Get it on!
Okay, there we go. Handled some little audio problems there. I want to wish everybody happy Easter. We're here on Easter Sunday. And Brian Alvarez is here. We're going to be joined by Raven in about a half an hour, talking about whatever you guys want to talk about when it comes to pro wrestling over the last week and the future. And how long the future is becoming more and more of a question these days. Brian, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good.
That's good. I guess the first thing we should probably talk about with Brian is the closing of Portland Wrestling. And it was just basically TV station that was running the show got sold, and the new owners decided that wrestling did not fit into their what they wanted the station to have.
Yes.
Even though they still have wrestling on that station.
Yes, wrestling and Springer, all sorts of fun, family-friendly shows.
Yeah.
But no wrestling.
Yeah, no studio wrestling.
I think that it's because we beat up Grappler and retired him.
Oh, okay.
Threw it off the air.
Well, there you go. So,
no, but it's actually interesting because I remember from day one, Frank was talking about how the station was going to be sold to Tribune, and Tribune had like WB affiliates all over the West Coast. So the idea was, as soon as it got sold, we would probably be able to syndicate. And unfortunately, we had to get past the fact that Tribune did not like wrestling first, and we didn't get past that part. So it's done.
Yep. So that's too bad. And this was a very interesting week for World Wrestling Entertainment. We got a pay-per-view coming up this coming Sunday, and I would say that every week the interest in that pay-per-view probably lessens. Would you say that's fair?
I think it's been like that for a while now.
Yeah.
They've had a talent lately of taking matches that people would want to see and writing storylines around them to lessen interest. They did it for WrestleMania, doing it for this show.
Yeah, I really think that there's something, fundamentally wrong now with their writing. And, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but there's nothing wrong with some comedy in pro wrestling, but pro wrestling is not a comedy show.
No.
And certainly, and the more it is, the worse off you're going to be in the long run. And,
I remember people used to always argue, they would say, well, Friends is really popular right now, so we're going to put more comedy in the show. And I would always think, okay, if people wanted to see comedy like Friends, they'll watch Friends, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah. And if they want to watch wrestling, what are they going to watch?
Wrestling.
Okay. Well, as it turns out, Bill Goldberg put on a wig, and there's no interest in his match with Rock. And when Rock accepted the challenge, there was no pop from the crowd because Rock did an unusually terrible interview on Monday. And now we got a main event that has no interest that 2 months ago people couldn't wait to see. So that's kind of the story of, when they talk about, good promoters and bad promoters, this is now the opposite of what a good promoter does, right?
I would say so.
Lessens interest in a match that people actually wanted to see going in. Anyway, we're going to be back with more about Raw, SmackDown, Backlash pay-per-view, and whatever else you guys want to talk about. You can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And today, we are going to give away another copy of Def Jam Vendetta. And it is to the first caller who gets this question right. And I'm going to prelude this by saying this is a trick question. And I don't think it's that easy, although last week's wasn't that easy and people got it right away. The week before wasn't that easy either, but people got it. This one may be real hard. But anyway, in the last 5 years, what was the highest rated on American television, highest rated wrestling match, most television viewers of what wrestling match in the last 5 years? So anyway, that is our question, and it's not what you think. Maybe it is what you think, I don't know. But it's not an easy question, I'll tell you that right now. So anyway, Brian, do you know what that is?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can tell me during the commercial break.
Most watched in the last 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 7 years, I don't know. But I'm saying 5. Okay.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan's coming back as Mr. America, under a mask.
You know what? I'm actually kind of looking forward to that.
And why?
Because it's so old school. But what else are you going to do with Hogan? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what this is? You know what this is? This is like, actually, Hulk Hogan is brilliant, when it comes to maneuvering. Although I think it would have been more brilliant if he sat out about 3 months and then come back like this, because this really isn't the time to come back. You don't come back to his... he's coming back, and see, the thing is that now, as Mr. America, he can go out there and the people are going to chant USA, 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 and he doesn't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
He can get the Duggan pop, and Vince is such a mark for a pop that he'll think the guy's over.
Yeah.
So,
as long as they don't put the belt on Mr. America, I got no problem with it.
Oh.
Wear his wacky little mask and do his little dance, and yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah. Ray Mendoza passed away the other night. Ray Mendoza, probably one of the, I don't know, 6 or 7 biggest stars in the history of Lucha Libre. When I was a kid, he wrestled in California. He was very old then, but he was 73 when he passed away. And he was very reminiscent of Perro Aguayo. Guy started as a great technical wrestler. Late in his career, became a brawler and a bleeder. And very well loved. Of course, 5 of his sons ended up becoming pro wrestlers. And one of them, Villano Tercera, is, kind of one of the all-time legends as well in Mexico. Speaking of which, have you been watching the Lucha Libre lately?
I haven't watched today's, but I have been watching it.
Okay. Hopefully today's show will be a little bit more up to date than last week's, but probably not.
I figure they got to catch up at some point.
I hope so.
They can't remain 3 months behind forever, so.
Yeah, I hope so.
Maybe they can double up like Saturday and Sunday for a while.
That would make perfect sense.
And that would make my life.
And it will not happen, so. UFC is Friday night in Miami, and it's probably, I don't know. I feel less buzz on this UFC than any UFC in a long time. It's real clear. The show after this, there actually will be a lot of interest because I think, Ken Shamrock's going to fight Tank Abbott, Vitor Belfort. Most likely main event will be Randy Couture against Chuck Liddell, which is a real interesting match.
For the belt or not?
This is what I think is what's going to happen. They're going to announce it as something akin to the provisional belt, in that Tito Ortiz would still be the technical champion if he chooses to come back and defend it against the winner. But if not, then whoever wins this is the champion, as opposed to being the number one contender. That way, I think it's a way to avoid breaching Tito's contract, or making it look like they've stripped him of the title. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he's going to have to come back and fight under his terms, because they're not going to release him, to go somewhere else. And they're not, you know what I'm saying? Tito, I don't know. Tito made a move, and his lawyers, I'm sure he's doing what his lawyers have told him, and I guess we'll see what the right move is in this case. He went on and he was on Live Audio Wrestling a couple weeks ago and said that he would come back and he just wants to fight for 150 and 150. And when they heard that, they tried to open renegotiations with him and try to come to a medium, and he didn't want to come back to the table. So I think that he just went on that to, well, that's the whole thing. First it was an injury, then it was money. I don't think he just wants. I think he just doesn't want to fight Chuck Liddell.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I was talking to people that said, well, they called his bluff, and he wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, he wasn't.
There you go.
Yeah. See, Matt Hughes and Sean Shirk, which is the main event Friday. What's your pick?
I don't know.
Oh, God.
I don't, because you know what?
Yeah, because you've never seen Sean Shirk fight.
I've seen so little of Sean Shirk that I just, I have no clue.
Yeah, I've seen him a couple of times. He's a short, really strong guy. I don't think he's going to be able to overpower Matt Hughes. So I think Matt Hughes is going to win. That's kind of my thought.
I better not predict then.
Okay. Why, you're going to predict Matt Hughes?
Well, I've been on a bad streak lately, so I'm going to wait.
Yeah, but you've got to break it, and when you get the easy ones, those are the ones to pick.
Well, see, that's my problem. I always think they're the easy ones.
The next show, there are probably going to be some tough ones.
Hey, I'll make a prediction right now, okay?
Yes.
If they do Shamrock versus, what's his face?
Ian Freeman.
Yeah. And Tank versus Chemo.
Yes.
I predict that Shamrock and Tank are both going to win.
Well, I think the Tank will win for sure. Well, I don't want to say for sure.
There's like this curse where nothing that UFC ever plans goes as planned.
Yeah, right.
And I just think that this is the one time where they have something planned and it goes off okay.
Well.
And then I predict that something horrible will happen and Shamrock and Tank will never fight. Write all this down because I guarantee this will happen.
They'll both win and then they'll both end up injured, right?
Yeah, something will happen. One of them will get injured or something will happen. He'll sign with WWF or something. Just wait.
All right. Let's head to the phones. We're going to go to, we'll start with one on.
Hey, not much, guys. I want to start off with a comment on the Mr. America. Aren't we all going to know it's Hogan once we see that shoe leather skin walking down with a mask?
Well, you're supposed to know it's Hogan. That's the gimmick.
Oh, that's the gimmick?
Yeah.
Well, never mind.
There are few leathery men who can play the role. Let's say bring in Connect.
For you. My first one was on Nathan Jones and this, I hope it's an injury angle from this past Thursday.
I don't think it is.
It's not.
I'm not sure though. But the impression I have is that it's just a way for him to get revenge or something.
Okay.
Or maybe to keep him off a week or two. But it's not like they're sending him to OVW or anything like that.
I was hoping. I didn't think that was the case. I didn't think Vince was bright enough to figure that part out. But
well, it'd be.
I thought maybe
I don't think they want him around if Undertaker's gone.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Because then what do you do?
Because at least when Undertaker's there, you got someone to protect him.
Yeah.
Cover up for him.
Okay. My other question is about what is the future of XPW?
Probably not all that bright. I think it depends on what happens with with that little thing that they had. But I mean, they canceled their show for this weekend in Pittsburgh, and as far as I know, their pay-per-view was moved back a month. They bounced some checks, so I think it doesn't look good.
They got raided.
Yeah, they got raided, which is probably the biggest story of all. Yeah.
And I have two more for you. One is with Rey and Tajiri teaming up like last week's SmackDown.
Yes.
And then Rey he gets destroyed.
Oh boy, that was more bad news this week, wasn't it? There.
Yeah. But and then he's facing him at the pay-per-view, which is just like whose sick mind thinks this is like going to be
Rey Mysterio Big Show match.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they're gone. They're gone. I mean. It really is. This is WCW in 1999, and I lived through it, and this is going to be slower and more painful and
far slower.
Yes, because they have more money and because they have nowhere else to go. And the other one too is like, oh my God, that Hunter and Stephanie are getting married this fall.
This month?
No, this fall.
Oh.
And boy, oh boy.
Well, at least it's a lot of preparation time in which she might be gone.
That's not necessarily good either.
Well, we'll find out soon.
Yeah.
I got to say, though, I really liked when Rey hit the Big Show with that 619 around the pole.
Yeah.
I thought Big Show was so awesome for about the next 15 seconds.
Yes, but...
Unfortunately, it set up a match.
It set up a match, and I mean, that match is not... I mean, it just doesn't take advantage of the talents of Rey Mysterio.
Well, that's the match that proves more than anything else that Vince learned nothing from the death of WCW.
Well, we know that. I mean, they're bringing back everyone from WCW.
Well, yeah.
Anything else, Jonathan?
Yeah, my other question for you is, with AJ Styles wrestling Disco Inferno, shouldn't they be using him maybe to be waiting in the wings there for after Raven and Jarrett?
Actually, believe it or not,
or is
that is the plan. They just... I think Mr. Styles made a comment in an interview that some people weren't happy with, and that's all that was. That was punishment, which, yes, we have to watch people get punished, instead of just saying, please don't say that again. Now you have to do a job, and it ends up, like when he's back in the title contention, people are going to go, that's the guy that got beat by Disco Inferno. Anyway, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And if you're interested in getting either of those two publications, you can always go to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and there's information up on the site, on the headlines and features on the latest issues of both publications. And this week's issue of the Observer is one of the best ones ever. I can say that because people have been telling me that for the last 2 days. And anyway, Brian, what's up in Figure 4 this week?
All about the wig.
Really? That's a good subject.
In fact, that's like the theme is the wig.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The death of Goldberg.
The death of Bill Goldberg at 9:38
p.m. on Monday night.
9:38 p.m. on Monday night, Bill Goldberg died.
Yes.
I know. And it was really sad to watch.
It was.
And you know what's even sadder? Is he doesn't know it.
No.
In fact,
you will find out eventually.
Well, when the buy rate comes in.
Yes.
Oh boy. You know what's so funny is remember I said like they'll make their money back with Goldberg on the first buy rate alone.
Yeah.
Well, they won't.
You know what's funny is
it's not funny.
There's a time and a place for comedy and wrestling, and when things were so hot, there was a lot of comedy in WWF that was actually funny.
Well, like Edge, Kurt Angle, and Christian, but it was also in its place.
Yes, it was with Michael Cole. Can you imagine Rock or Stone Cold shaking hands with Michael Cole?
Yeah.
That would have been the end of the boom right there.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Austin putting on a wig and boom then?
That's right. Yeah, but he added dimensions to his character.
Yeah.
Oh, if I hear that one more time.
Dimensions.
How about Brock Lesnar doing that interview with John Cena and Chris Benoit? He was committing suicide out there himself.
Yep. He giggled. He shook hands with Michael Cole.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. They don't understand characters. Characters have to play their role. You know what happened is The Rock is such a great multidimensional character that their feeling is that, let's get all these guys and be just like The Rock.
And who else is ever going to be like The Rock?
Well, somebody will someday, in 20 years. There's going to be another Rock, but, well, if there's a business in 20 years. But Brock Lesnar and Bill Goldberg, neither of those two are going to be that. They're monsters. They're something totally different, and this is the thing. This is really, I think that this is the one where, this week, both Monday and Thursday, where I realized, I know that the people who are kind of in charge there are kind of out of it to a degree, okay? But I realized that they are so far out of it. In fact, Bruce Mitchell of Pro Wrestling Torch called me up, or actually I called him up last night, and we were talking about the article that I wrote, and he just goes, I read this was a story of wrestling from 1984 to 1988. Mm-hmm. And he said, I read that article, and, one thing was painfully clear. I go, what? And it goes, Vince McMahon is Verne Gagne. But there's no Vince McMahon, that's taking over.
Yeah.
And that was quite sad to hear. And when I started thinking about it, he's not that far off. So we are going to go to Jeffrey in New York City. What's happening?
I can't hear the callers, by the way. I should alert everybody.
Okay.
Hello?
Jeff, what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on? I got a question for you. Actually, I wanted to answer the question. Is it, do I have to give the arena where the...
Well, you don't have to give the arena.
Just the match?
Just the match.
Mankind and Rock? There was a lot of them. Mankind and Rock, the day...
No, it's not it, though.
Okay.
No sooner should I speak than I can hear this caller.
Oh, you can hear him?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully Raven, when he gets on, will be able to hear the callers, too. Okay.
No, that's wrong.
Okay, but that is wrong.
Okay. I got a question. A lot of people are dogging RVD's promos, and, it's funny because the Dudleys, they haven't been given the talk, yet they're really good talkers. And I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but when in ECW, when RVD had Bill Alfonso managing him, RVD actually was not a bad talker. He actually could talk a little.
Well, he played off Sabu and Bill Alfonso. They had an entertaining threesome.
Oh, I see. So, in other words, he would need like a manager.
Not necessarily. I mean, based on their ideas of what a main event promo guy should be able to do, he is weak at that. But I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is so frustrating to me. Is you find the strengths of the guys and you work to their strengths and you don't expose their weaknesses. And if the guy can get over, if the guy can get over and he never talks, I mean, think about Kane for all those years. You know what I mean? He never talked. Now he talks and he's not over at all.
He never talked, and he had a mask.
Yeah. So it's like if Rob Van Dam can't do a 20-minute promo, you know what? I mean, nobody can do a 20-minute promo today. I mean, because The Rock bored the people out of their mind. I think Rock probably still could do it. Hunter is always boring when he does a long promo. So it's like that whole idea of this is what a main eventer needs to do. It's like, You know, I think that these promos just need to be 3 minutes. I don't care who it is.
And I wish they would just understand that it's okay to have managers still.
Yeah, I mean,
if a guy can't talk, just bring in a guy for him.
God, you know, I was watching
Kenny Bolin.
Kenny Boll, yeah, which is who they will never consider because of his weight, which is so funny because, like,
that's half the comedy.
I know, but you know, I was watching TNA Wednesday, and it's just like I'm watching Jim Mitchell do this promo, and I'm going like, this guy is so good. You know, what does he do? What, you know, nothing against TNA, but it's like, I guess it is, but it's like,
well, it is because D'Lo even said, "Look where I am now."
Yeah,
This is what I got out of it.
Yeah, but the thing is that there are guys out there, Kenny Bolin, Jim Mitchell, Arn Anderson. I mean, there are great talkers that are running around in wrestling. They're doing no talking on the major league level. Ric Flair is different because he is kind of a manager. They just don't let him talk.
Exactly, that's the problem.
Yes, there's a lot of problems, aren't there? Jeff, do you know anything else?
Yeah, I got a question for you, a hypothetical question. Who would win in a straight shoot, a brawl rather, Johnny Valentine or Andre the Giant?
Who knows? I mean, I don't have clue one. Oh boy.
Well, what are the rules?
What rules?
No, it's really a brawl, more or less, like Brawl for All.
Brawl for All, okay, that means gloves, 1 minute rounds, takedowns, put gloves on. I have no idea. I couldn't even fathom a guess because I've never seen Johnny Valentine in a real fight, and I've only seen Andre in one, and he was 40 years old and drunk at the time, so that probably isn't a good indication of what he could have done when he was young and fearsome, and he was young and fearsome, believe me. I mean, I guess I would just guess, just because of size, I would say Andre. I mean, you're talking about, a 400-pound guy, but Johnny Valentine really was a pretty darn tough guy, so I don't know.
That's interesting. And my last question is, I haven't seen that many Broadway matches from the 70s and before that time. But how would you compare the matches that go Broadway from recent memory to the ones that have gone Broadway, or even more than 60 minutes before?
Well, give me two examples, and
take I know Ric Flair, a famous match at a house show, Ric Flair and Bret Hart at a house show when it went I think it went Broadway. I think it might have went Broadway.
The 60-minute match in Boston, I think it was an Iron Man match.
No, not the Iron Man match. That's with Shawn Michaels. I'm talking about the one.
No. He did an Iron Man match. I think it was in Boston, Ric Flair and Bret Hart.
Oh, did they? Then that's the one, then.
Yeah. That was an excellent match, by the way. They did one I think they did one at the Meadowlands. I think it was Flair. No, that might have been Bret and Owen. But anyway, I don't remember. There was one at the Meadowlands also, but I've seen the one in Boston. It was an excellent match with Flair and Bret Hart going Broadway. As compared to what, like Jack Briscoe and Dory Funk Jr. or something?
Yeah, Jack Briscoe and Dory, perfect example.
I saw one Jack Briscoe Dory Funk Jr. match. Actually, two of them, because I've seen one in Japan, and then I've seen the one from Tampa from about 72, which was an awesome match for its time. It's hard for me to compare them. I mean, the one would have been faster, the Flair Bret Hart would have been faster paced. But there was a more thread. The Briscoe Funk match to me had more of a feel of realism to it. So I don't know. It just depends on what your cup of tea is. I mean, put it this way: people still talk about the Funk Briscoe matches today, and really, even though the Bret Hart Flair match, people sort of know about it, but it's not. But then again, that wasn't considered a main match at the time. It was just a house show match, whereas Funk and Briscoe was like the main program in NWA wrestling for 4 years or something. It seemed like forever, from 70 to 74.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. We are going to go to Kobe. No, we're not. We're going to go to Jesse in Wise, Virginia. Jesse, what's going on?
Doing okay. Okay. With Raw tomorrow night and then having the Booker T Triple H match for the belt, do you think there's a chance do you think there's a chance that Booker T will win? Or do you think this is just another...
I think that there's a chance, yeah. I don't understand why, because if it is, it's going to be it'd be like a short-term thing. But I don't think he's going to win, because it sure seems like they're going to Hunter and Kevin Nash as the big program.
Yeah, I was thinking, though, with all the rumors that Triple H is lobbying to get out of the promise he made, supposedly to job the belt to Goldberg in exchange for getting out of having to job to Booker T at WrestleMania, that maybe this might be in a compromise. That
one had nothing to do with the other. He he got out of losing to Booker because he decided he didn't want to lose to Booker. Goldberg thing. The Goldberg thing has not even been, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, there's been no promise that he's going to lose to Goldberg, although he has agreed to it somewhat, but right now, I mean, the only thing that's on the books officially is that he's going with Nash, after this pay-per-view.
Okay, a second thing is with him and Nash. Is there any truth? Because one thing I've been reading a lot, floating around ever since probably the last year, last fall, is this sort of like bargain between Nash and Triple H, where Triple H has literally said that he'll not drop the belt to anyone except for Nash. Is there any truth to this?
I don't buy that. I don't buy that he may have said that to Nash. I mean, it would shock me, but that's certainly not something that's been talked about openly in the company.
Okay. My second question is about Kurt Angle.
Yes.
Was the decision to transform the character from less of a character that does like comedy and seriousness to do a character that's just basically seriousness, was that Kurt's decision or something that he came up with?
That was Paul Heyman's decision.
Okay.
Okay, we got to get running, okay? Okay, we'll be back right after this. We should have Raven up as well. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we have Raven up as our special guest this week. He's going to be here for the rest of the show. And, Raven, how are you tonight?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. A week from Wednesday, Raven and Jeff Jarrett will probably be, I'm guessing, the biggest show in the history of NWA TNA as far as interest goes, because it's the first match that's had a 4-week build-up and a good 4-week build-up at that.
Actually, it's probably a little more than 4-week build-up, considering really from day one since I got there.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the straight date though, is what I'm saying.
I see.
But that's right. From the day you got there, the match has been, it's been what kind of been the focus is that you were going to challenge him for the NWA title, and that's the deal. And he
beat him for the title.
And beat him for the title. That would be an interesting.
Are there any odds in this? Yeah, they have the odds on the pay-per-views for WWE.
I haven't heard any.
Have me make a prediction.
I haven't heard any odds. It depends on who's in power that week. So now, what are your thoughts as far as strengths and weaknesses of NWA TNA product right now?
I think the strength the main strength is it's different. I mean, different characters. I don't care how much you like WWE characters. After watching them over and over for 5 years with no change none of them upgrade, none of them update their act. No one does anything to make themselves any more than they were when they first got there.
Now they're trying to make Bill Goldberg and Brock Lesnar into comedians.
Oh, really? I saw the Goldberg thing with the wig. I actually can be honestly say, without trying to sound like sour grapes, that I don't really watch the show, and I would watch it if it was good, but I actually stopped watching it when I was there because it was so bad, and which is really hard. Like, I mean, for me to be there on a Monday night at the taping and wrestling only on Heat and having nothing to do afterwards but watch Raw and still not watching it, that's really not a testament to how the product was being presented. Brian Gewirtz is clueless.
Yeah, it's no better now. Well, I mean, here's the thing. When to me, one of the things I think that one of the real flaws in the WWE thing right now is that I think that they got The Rock, who was this multi-dimensional, entertaining character who can do a great promo and charismatic and everything. And so that's the prototype, and now they want everyone to be The Rock. And the thing is that for characters to get over, they all need to be different, and they're not playing to people's strengths at all.
They hate individuality there. They want conformity. And forgetting that the formula that got them where they were was having all these different iconoclastic characters. I mean, if you go back to the first heyday, they had Duggan, who was what he was. You had, from Coco Beware, not that he was the headliner, but, from him to Hogan to
Jake the Snake.
Everybody was a different individual, and now they want it so homogenized, everybody has to wrestle the same, everybody's got to look the same, everybody's got to work the same. I thought it was a bizarre that RVD, whether you think he can work or cut a promo or not, the guy connects with the fans, and have him on the Heat at the WrestleMania when he could have been drawing money all this time, starting from the time when they did the alliance with Austin.
Yeah.
I never liked the fact, I always hated the fact that guys like him, whose work and psychology were suspect, were able to get over like that, but I never begrudged it. I mean, it irritated me to no end that here I am busting my ass in my craft to improve my psychology, and he didn't have to. But by the same token, I'm not going to hold it against him, you know. And to not have pulled the trigger on him, and to let him just become what he's become, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's just petty nonsense.
But the way the system is right now, I don't know that anyone can get over for just a variety of reasons. First of all, because the focus is always going to be on the guys who already are over. You know, there's no open spot, so to speak. And then the other,
there will be.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that when everyone, you know, is kind of the same. I mean, the only one who's really sort of different, which is John Cena, who's kind of getting over. But you know, again, you know, it's 6 months too early for him anyway.
Oh, it wouldn't last anyway.
Yeah.
But what'll happen is he'll get to the point where they go, look. Oh, wait, he's not ready yet. Send him back to the bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious. You got to push. That's the whole thing is if you want to keep your spot on top, you push these guys before they're ready so you can say, look, they're not ready, so you don't have to worry about them when they are ready.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very simple formula.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, but it's evil.
But it's
brilliant.
But in the long term, it's devastating. Because I mean, you went through this. You went through the same thing in WCW, really.
Oh, it's horrifying. But what I'm saying is, but for the guys who are doing it, protecting their own spots, it's brilliant. It's their fiefdom, you know, and they're protecting it. I think it's horrible for the business, and I think it's bullshit. If you don't feel, you know, if you can't stay on top by your own merits, you don't deserve to be there. But that's not the way the world's run, unfortunately.
Well, but you know, the other thing too is that even guys who are good, I mean, and even guys who are great, eventually get stale, and I mean, should just be, you know, moved around a little bit.
Of course, but that will never happen.
Yeah.
As long as the same guys are entrenched, and that's what killed WCW.
Yeah.
Raven, what do you think about the contracts in WWE? Do you think that's a problem?
What's that?
The contracts, as far as if you're a main eventer, you obviously get paid more.
Of course.
So you have no incentive to ever say, okay, I'll go down to the mid card and let this guy come up for a while and see if that can help business.
Sure.
So,
I mean,
do you think that it would be better if everybody had, like, the guaranteed deal like in WCW, or do you think that was bad, too?
But that didn't work either.
Well, I don't think it's that. I think ultimately it boils down to guys on top are going to protect their turf because not just for the money, but for the glory, for the ego, for the fame. I mean, no matter what anybody decries that, no, they could care less about being famous or anything like that, they're full of crap. I mean, let's face it, to pick a job where you need to be beloved or hated by millions of people shows there's some sort of character flaw. I mean, and I include myself in that group, you know, that there's a certain insecurity that you need to have this adoration, you know, from strangers. And, I mean, if you look at 90% of all actors, you know, they're all screwed up that way. I mean, it's the same thing in this business. I mean, there's no other, I mean, if people want to, there's a certain need, and it's a certain high once you get in there. I mean, like if you ask Nash about it, he'll tell you, Kevin will say, you know, it's like shooting, you know, smack his arm like he's shooting heroin. I mean, not that he ever has, but, I mean, that's what the rush is. When you hear those people, man, you can't, there's nothing that's going to top that. I've done every drug there is, and nothing tops people going nuts for you.
Now, here's the thing. Now,
I mean, going nuts or booing you, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
I want to follow up on that because you just said something that's real interesting to me in that both WWE and WCW, it was a unique situation in that for years, WCW was run by people who, for the most part, were behind the scenes, okay? And then Eric Bischoff came, and then he became, and the company did well, and then Eric Bischoff became a performer, okay? And then the same thing in WWE, and granted, Vince McMahon and Steve Austin was one of the great feuds of all time, but Vince McMahon and his whole family have become performers, and realistically, you know, when we talk about that disease, they probably, you know, they should be out of it and looking at it objectively, but actually...
You're a junkie for it. I mean, there's no way to want to give that up. Why would you want to give it up?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's no reason in the world to want to give that up. You know, there's no greater high than it. I mean, it's euphoric.
Yeah. Not even money.
No, of course. I mean, they'll never say that, but I mean, let's face it. If you told them, you know, if you told a guy, you say, look, I'll pay you $500,000 and you could be the main eventer for the next year, or I'll pay you $800,000 and you're going to be a jobber and get beat by everybody. They're going to take the $500,000. They'll all claim they're going to take the $800,000, but there's not a single one who would take it. I guarantee that. There's nothing worse than being a jobber and feeling like you don't belong.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not an integral part of the puzzle.
Now, you personally, okay? You know, you went from
It killed me. It freaking
you went from being, you know, literally a nobody to walking in and getting to be, at least getting to exploit your potential. Right. I mean, right away, you went 1 week to the next. Basically, you went from being a nobody to being the beginning of a world title contender. How did that, just change your outlook and everything like that?
On TNA, you mean?
Yeah, when you started with TNA and now that you've been there for a couple months.
Well, it was like one thing when I had to rethink the entire way I viewed my whole life and my self-image when they turned me into a jobber for 2 years, because you start to believe that you're a worthless piece of crap. You know what I mean? And it's liberating. And it was phenomenal to finally be treated like, the amount of work I put in was finally being respected, was finally being paid off. It kills me that I never got my run in New York. But I would rather be the big fish in a small pond than just a jobber working for Vince. There's no way I'd go back to that. There's no way I'd go back to working for Vince like that.
Yet, don't you think that most people...
And on a sidebar, I'm actually making well over double what I made for Vince.
Yeah, that's
which is the most bizarre thing, because if I'd have known that, I would have quit Vince. I mean, there were so many times I was going to walk in the office and go, Vince, I quit. I'm tired of being a jobber. And I was like, well, where am I going to make this kind of money? Maybe I'll just keep hanging in there. Sooner or later, I'll get a shot. And if I let me go, and I was like, I really thought I was going to walk into this big depression and just be, in bed for a month. And all of a sudden, I started getting these indies, and I found out that indie guys on top, I get $1,500 a show now.
Yeah.
Which I also, while I'm at it, I'll just plug it, that anybody looking to book me, rfvideo.com, Rob Feinstein takes care of all my bookings for me. Just call him or look him up on the internet. And to get that for a show, and then to work what I get for the Jarretts, I mean, I'm working 3 nights, making well over double what I made for Vince. Plus, I'm selling gimmicks. Plus, there's almost no, the taxes is minimal because half the crap's under the table. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Maybe it isn't now. The IRS isn't listening. But I mean, it's been this huge life boost because I really wasn't very happy with my life. And honestly, I was ready to quit the business and move on to something else, something that would be creatively fulfilling, because it certainly wasn't for the last 2 years.
Okay. Weird.
And, the hardcore run I had, but after that it was, bunch of crap.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break right now. We'll come back with more with Raven right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and our special guest Raven, who's on NWA TNA on pay-per-view every Wednesday night, including on the 30th against Jeff Jarrett for the NWA Championship. And when you were a kid growing up you grew up in Florida, right?
Yeah. I was born in Philadelphia, but I grew up in Florida.
And so the NWA, what were the NWA champions that you watched? Like Jack Briscoe and Dory Funk and those guys?
Yeah, Terry Funk, let's see, well, I lived in the WWF area until I was, 74, 75, so it was Bruno, but I hated Bruno. You couldn't understand him on promos. I mean, he had that horrible, Italian accent that I couldn't make heads or tails out of. But I did enjoy Pedro Morales, and I was a huge mark.
I couldn't understand Pedro Morales.
He was a little, at least he had fire. I mean, because, you know what, because, I don't know, he was much easier to understand than Bruno was.
Really? I can understand Bruno perfectly. Pedro was like, I mean, I could get it, but...
He came across as stupid.
Yeah.
Especially when he started doing commentary.
Well, he wasn't a good commentator, that's true.
He's rotten.
Yeah.
But honestly, my hero was Chief Jay Strongbow, because he'd go in that war dance, which I just thought was the coolest thing, because it was this dramatic comeback, from ashes, to conquering all.
Yeah.
But then I moved to Florida, and what was 76? Who was the champion then? Terry Funk?
Terry Funk would have been, yeah.
Had a run for a little bit. Tickets were like $3, but if the champion was in town, it was $3.50. Ticket prices.
Yeah. Championship prices are in effect this week, remember?
This day, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I grew up in Florida Championship Wrestling, which was, tremendous.
Yeah. Now, what were your thoughts? I mean, the NWA title, one of the things that the company has done well is position the NWA title and kind of use that history of when it really was the premier deal in wrestling. With Jeff Jarrett's done some promos about growing up wanting to be NWA champion, and you kind of have alluded to that as well. Does it mean anything, or is it just a promo?
You know what? I think it would have meant something. No. What happened to the business? I don't know, growing up, I wanted to be in the WWE because they were the biggest, or WCW, but when WCW started faltering, it didn't mean as much because they'd give belts to anybody.
Yeah.
Like Ronnie Garvin, no offense to him, I never met the guy, but, Ronnie Garvin is a champion, and then the next week he was a referee in the WWE. So things lose their luster for you. Fast forward ahead to WCW, like they would put the U.S. belt on just about anybody, and I was like, it didn't mean anything. And then I actually thought, like, they put it on Paige, and Paige was actually over at that point. He dropped it to me, and I thought, this actually means a little bit to me, because it looks like they're trying to rebuild it as opposed to just giving it to every, Tom, Dick, and Harry. And then they gave it to Goldberg, and then it looked like it was going somewhere, and I don't know what happened after that, I forget. So it depends. It depends what state of flux the business is in, how it's being used. So that being said, I think as NWA TNA becomes a larger company...
Okay, we got to go because we're got to hit our news break. We'll be back in 5 minutes, okay?
All right.
Okay, you're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready?
Let's get it on.
Okay, welcome to the second hour of Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And our special guest tonight is Raven, and we'll also be talking after this next commercial break. We'll talk a little bit more about our trivia question, because Brian now knows the answer. But
what's the trivia question?
It's a trick question. So let me preface that by saying, what was the most watched? You're going to be like Eddie Gilbert. Anyway, do you know that story?
No.
Were you in Memphis when that happened? It was right around when you were there, believe it or not. When Lance Russell they were doing some trivia question, and Eddie Gilbert Eddie Gilbert wasn't out there, but it was like, the winner would get something or other, and they would do a trivia question, and this was actually not in the script. And then Eddie Gilbert came out for one of his interviews, and he gave the answer to the question right away. So anyway, but the question is, what was the most watched wrestling match on television in the United States in the last 5 years?
Wasn't it Pat and Jerry versus Mean Street Posse?
No, it wasn't. Do you know what, though? Do you know what the most watched match involving a wrestler was? Which is not the answer to this question, by the way. Was Johnny Lauer and Joey Buttafuoco.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's disturbing.
Well, I do know that Pat and Jerry and the Mean Street Posse actually beat a Hogan Macho match.
That's disturbing, too.
Yeah.
For them. Anyway, we were talking about championships.
I hope they don't bring them back now.
Yeah, so to me, it means something business-wise. Like, I think it's an affirmation by your peers that...
when it's treated as such.
It's treated that way, right. That's my whole point is... And so that's when it means something. It means something on two levels. It means something as an affirmation that you've qualified or you're that good at what you do. And then there's the childhood thing, like, you always wanted to be that position, you know what I mean? And that's part of the reason why I always wanted to run in New York and I never got it, or I would have liked to run in WCW had they survived. But if NWA TNA continues to grow and becomes a force, let's say, then that would fulfill that thing that I've had since childhood as well. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard. It'd be like saying, if right now I don't think they're. Right now I think it's a damn good show, and I think there's a lot of potential. But once they achieve their potential, it's going to mean so much more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not that it doesn't mean something now, because it does, but it will mean even more once it becomes something. When it becomes part of the vernacular, as opposed to, oh, those are the other guys, or we haven't quite heard of them yet, or I haven't seen it yet. But when it becomes, part of the consciousness, then it has even more effect.
Okay, we're going to head to a break, and we're going to come back with phone calls for Raven right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, special guest Raven of NWA TNA, and mention some of the independent dates you got coming up while you're at it.
Let me see. The 26th in Indiana for some guy Jason. I'm not sure where it is. Mobile, Alabama on the 27th. Hold on. Let me turn the calendar. In Raleigh for Chris Farrell, I think, on a Friday the 2nd. Jay and outside of Chicago on the 3rd. The 9th for Court Bauer in Orlando. The 10th and 11th for Norm Connors in Pittsburgh. Then I'm taking 2 weeks off just because I can. The 31st for Frank Goodman in May. June 7th for this guy Pete in Wisconsin. 13th for Chris Farrell in the Charlotte area, I think. Ring of Honor on the 14th. Court Bauer on the 20th in Lauderdale. 27th for Frank Goodman in Queens. Yeah, the other Frank Goodman show is in Queens, too. And 28th for Ring of Honor in Philadelphia.
Now, what's your thoughts as far as Major League Wrestling goes? And have you seen any tapes of their TV?
Nothing.
Okay.
I cut about 6 interviews to build up a storyline. So I don't know how they aired or what they're airing or what the deal is.
I think they aired...
burned a photo on the first show. That's all I know so far.
Yeah, I think there may have been a promo on Vampiro that's aired already. That would be it. I think maybe only one. We're going to go to the phone lines. We're going to go to Kobe in Bloomington, Illinois. You're first up with Raven.
Hey, Dave. Brian, Raven, what's up? Hello?
Raven, can you hear the caller?
I can't hear anything.
Oh, boy. Brian, can you hear the caller?
No.
Oh, this is good.
It kind of cuts in and out sometimes, but right now we can't hear him.
Get the WCW production crew.
Okay, well,
Dave, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly, Kobe, and I'll feed any questions that I got you.
Well, first off, I'd like to take a guess at that question. I don't think I know it, but I'll take a guess.
I can hear him now.
It wouldn't have happened to have been that 10-man Revolution Mick Foley New Age Outlaws match?
No, it wouldn't be.
Okay.
Brian says that everyone's going to be really mad when I give the answer at the end.
When he said it's a trick question, it is a trick question.
That's right. You're not thinking in the right direction.
Will be outraged.
I tried to think in that direction, but I couldn't come up with nothing. But
okay.
Anyway, Raven, what I wanted to ask you, I really enjoyed that issue of Spider-Man's Tangled Web you co-wrote for Marvel Comics.
You're breaking up.
And
okay, he's telling you that he enjoyed the Spider-Man comic that you wrote.
Oh, thank you.
And just wanted to ask if it was a cool experience for you writing that, and if you have any plans to do that in the future.
Yeah, any plans?
I'd see. That was good. A friend of mine, Brian Hasbro, is a real good friend of mine. So, and he's a really, really strong writer. So I've been bugging him forever to do some stuff, and so we did that. And now I got to bug him to do some more. But I've actually worked on a project of my own that I'm really rather lazy about because every time I start to work on it, it feels like work, so I put it down. But I have a real close friend of mine, actually my best friend, Chad Damiani, who was a WCW commentator. Now he does Supercross, and now he's writing a couple of reality shows that he just signed with Fox. And so as soon as he gets some free time from that, he's going to help me finish it because he's actually a writer and a typist. So I can the exposition I can conquer and the plot I can conquer, but there's certain writing tics and stuff that I need help with, and or not that I need help with it, but to make it as good as I want it to be. Plus, honestly, since I can't type and it's really a hassle, that unless I have a typist, I wouldn't work on it anyway.
It sounds cool.
But I really think it's going to be a strong piece. It's one of the best things I've done, I think. And I'm not usually when I watch my own stuff or anything I do, I kind of cringe because it never lives up to expectations. But this really does. And I'm really looking forward to putting it out, but that's going to be a little bit of time and on it.
Cool. Sounds cool. Another question I have, since we saw him on a couple NWA TNA pay-per-views, Moondog Spot.
Oh, he's wondering what the future is for Moondog Spot and NWA.
Not the future. It was just about that gimmick, because I think it's a cool gimmick. I just wanted to know where it started, who...
Oh, Moondog Spot? That comes from Moondog, Maine.
How many Moondogs have there been? And
Moondog, Maine was the original Moondog, and that would be about 30 years ago. A little over 30 years ago.
I actually remember watching Moondog, Maine when I grew up in Philadelphia, because he would eat goldfish and chew glass on TV. I used to love that sideshow atmosphere to wrestling.
Yeah, that's...
But there was Moondog, King, Rex, and Spot.
Right, they came later in the 70s.
And as Gorilla was wont to say, Spot was the pick of the litter.
The run to the litter.
Wasn't Rex supposed to be...
pick of the litter. Gorilla would always say he was the pick of the litter.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't Rex supposed to be in Demolition?
Moondog Rex was the original guy in Demolition that was replaced by Barry Darso, yeah.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Thanks for taking my call.
Wasn't Randy Cully. Okay, we're going to go to Michael in DeKalb, Illinois. Michael, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Dave?
Doing good.
I just want to say I'm a big fan of the show. I've been listening and reading the website for a long time, so it's a real pleasure to get the opportunity to talk.
Cool.
That dude from Bloomington took my answer for the match, so I have no idea.
Okay.
So I
want to tell everyone that this is a trick question, and no one's thinking in the right direction. Okay.
Well, I still have no idea.
Okay.
But I just like to say to Raven, I'm glad to hear that you're doing really well and that you're in a position that is that utilizes your talents. And my question is, is Vince Russo still involved in the product, and what are your thoughts on the work of Vince Russo? I'm going to hang up and listen because I got some homework to do, but thanks for taking my call.
Okay.
I think Vince Russo is unjustly deemed the pariah of this business. I had my preconceived notions of him myself before finally meeting him, but I spent about 15 hours a week with the guy, and he's anything but what you think he is. If you want to look at the business as a whole, WWE, Vince has always only been interested in his top 4 guys. That's all he's ever been interested in. And the rest of the card, as you can see, prior to Russo writing and after Russo left, that pretty much from the underneath the top, no one gets any attention paid to him. And if you look at when WWE was at their best, let's face it, Russo was writing for all these underneath characters. He got Mark Henry over, for God's sakes. He got over people that you would never expect. His run in WCW was a rather checkered run, but there was a huge committee, and there was a lot more to it. It always amuses me that the David Arquette thing wasn't even his idea.
But he did go with it.
He did implement it.
He did go with it. And he
also talked to everybody else, and everybody else concurred with him, which is one of my favorite stories. That he's taking the heat for it, and he doesn't mind taking the heat. But it wasn't his. It was his final call, and he takes all responsibility for that. But by the same token, it wasn't like he was the only one that thought it was a good idea at the time.
Well, that's really scary too.
Yeah, it's just terrifying. But, and then of course his argument also is look at all the other people they could have mined it for a lot more mileage than they did. Between Kevin Costner and Courtney Cox and all these other people that did promos with the belt and whatnot. He stands by that decision, but by the same token, Vince never would have had the renaissance they did without him. And if you look at the way it's been booked ever since he left, it's obvious that Vince doesn't care about what goes on underneath the top guys.
Well, Vince McMahon has always been about that because that's how he grew up and that's what his father was like.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think when the final, in my opinion, and I think I've proven that I have a pretty good mind for this business. I think when the final score is told on Vince Russo, people are going to think, yeah, the guy was a really creative writer and a really good booker. I think, the WWE was a plus, the WCW was a negative, and how it finally played out, both of them. But I think if things play out what I know he has in his head, because see, I also am privy to what goes on in his head, unlike 99% of the world. Other than me and Disco, and maybe Saturn and Mike Sanders, nobody really knows what goes on in his head. And this guy's got some amazing ideas. Just amazing ideas. And I listen to him and I'm thinking, man, and some you see implemented and some you don't. His stewardship over the TNA product, it isn't his. It's Jeff and Jerry's product. It's Jeff and Jerry's show. Jeff and Jerry have the final say over everything that appears on television. It is their show. And I think whenever there's a bad idea, I think Russo's blamed for it. And I don't think that's fair. You can't give him any. Really, he shouldn't be labeled the genius or the detractor because it isn't his product. Just as he takes credit for David Arquette, ultimately it's Jeff and Jerry's product.
Mm-hmm. We are going to go to Dan in Chicago. Dan, you're next up.
This is so cool talking to Raven. It's awesome. Thank you, Dave, for allowing this to happen.
Okay.
Well, I'm a big fan of Raven. So am I. I got a thing on that trivia question.
Yes.
Could it be Raven and Goldberg for the U.S. title?
No.
I was thinking.
That actually did very well too.
Okay. Well, what's the question again? The highest rated match?
Highest rated match of the last 5 years.
All right.
So I get one more shot or no?
Yeah, you can, but it's a trick question, and everyone's in the wrong direction still.
Hogan and Goldberg.
What?
Hogan and Goldberg.
That did very, very well, but there were matches that beat that too. But that did a huge number. Yeah.
No one's even gotten my guess yet.
Yeah.
My original failed guess.
Yeah, which actually would be the second highest.
By virtue of the trick question part, it would lead me to believe that there's probably, if I could think of something, some sort of match outside the confines of a wrestling broadcast. But I can't think of any off the top of my head.
You might be right.
Of course. I mean, well, otherwise you could just keep throwing nails at it. Sooner or later someone's going to throw the dart at the dartboard, so it's got to be something that appeared on a regularly scheduled program that gets a much higher rating than wrestling would ever do. Maybe.
Yes, that's very interesting that you should bring that up. At least you're going in the right direction.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obvious. I just can't think of one, but it's obvious that that's where the answer lies.
Well, I will say that this is a match that everybody here, almost everybody here, would know and get real mad when they hear it.
Can I ask my question really quick?
Yes, go ahead, real quick.
What was your thoughts on going into that United States title match with Goldberg? How were you ticked it off for finding out that, well, obviously you had to lose to Goldberg?
I was very disappointed, but not because I wanted to covet the belt, but I thought I was finally going to get a push commiserate to what I thought my talent was, and then it seemed like, you know what, I was just hey, let's just throw the ball to him because we need to throw it somewhere and it goes somewhere else.
Okay, we got to head to a break right now. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And if you're looking for information on how to subscribe to either the Wrestling Observer newsletter, which I put out every week, or Figure 4 Weekly, which Brian puts out every week, you can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. There's lengthy previews of both up on the feature section, I believe, and in the headline section as well. So you can see what's in the current issues, and and all the ordering information and all that. Okay, we are here, of course, with Raven. We got a full bank of phone calls.
We did get a correct answer in email, by the way, but this person knows he cannot win.
Okay, well,
Alec got it right.
Oh, well, now he can call.
That's right.
Okay, or he can. Okay, well, anyway, we're going to go to Brandon in Baton Rouge. Brandon, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, I got two guesses on the question. One is a straight wrestling match, which is probably going to be wrong. It's Austin Undertaker from mid-'99.
I'll tell you what, that's number 2.
Okay, and the other one was a weird guess. It was the Celebrity Deathmatch halftime show for the Super Bowl. I think it was Austin McMahon. Does anything count?
It would count. It would count, but that doesn't. No, that wouldn't. No, Celebrity Deathmatch doesn't count. It's got to be a real wrestling match.
Okay. Well, I knew it was an oddball one, so it was worth a try. Okay, my question is going to be for Raven. It's about I heard that there were limits to what you can and can't say about the WWF and what happened before you were released. I was wondering if there was like a time limit on when that expires. And
there actually there is, but there isn't. I've still got some issues left with them monetarily that need to be addressed. So there's certain things I don't mind talking about and certain things I'd rather not get into, kind of.
Yeah, well,
and by saying I can't talk about it, it's a pretty good catch-all.
Yeah, well, I was wondering was that you'd already done a first shoot interview with RF Video, which I've gotten and reviewed for. Dave, is it okay if I plug my site?
You can.
Okay, it's www.thesmartmarks.com, all one word. And it was an incredible shoot interview. It's right up there. I think that the only other ones to compare are Jim Cornette's 8 Hour and Arn Anderson, and the Vader one I just did. And I was kind of wondering.
What about the Bill Watts?
Bill Watts was very good, but just Arn and Cornette destroyed him. It was
really. I've seen the Cornette one. I've never seen the Arn Anderson one, but the Bill Watts to me was just fascinating.
Yeah, but I thought the Cornette one was unbelievably hysterical, though.
Really?
I thought that was my favorite one that I listened to.
Yeah, well, I liked yours just as well because yours was definitely right up there. I'm kind of hoping this next one beats it. I was wondering if you could tell me when that one's going to come out.
I thought it was out, but maybe it isn't. I already did it, so.
Yeah, because I saw the first one, which goes up to leaving ECW for WCW, and they just said... It
covers everything else right up to the present.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the one for the present.
Yeah, go on our video. I thought they're probably still editing it, maybe. I don't know. Not that they do much editing, but,
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and go now.
Okay, you're very welcome. We're going to go to Mike in Ottawa, Ontario. Mike, what's going on?
Hi, I wanted to try to answer the question first.
Okay.
Was it Mankind and The Rock from Halftime Heat?
No, but that did a very good rating, too.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that.
Okay, I just wanted to ask Raven then, is there anyone else in WWE who he thinks would also benefit from getting out right now?
That's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope nobody leaves, frankly, for the independent circuit. But
But wouldn't you like maybe one guy that you could work with over there to come in that would spark things with the.
Stevie Richards is a real close friend of mine. I'd love to see him be used in the Indies because he'd be used well there. But I don't know if he'd make enough money to make it worth his while. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what everybody else can get. I don't know how. I think I'm lucky that I can get what I can get, and I also think I earned it. I mean. But I've also been higher up the card. Most of, in my opinion, anybody that they would let go hasn't really spent enough time near the top of the card or has the length and breadth of a career that I've had to kind of get that kind of money. You know what I mean?
Okay, but I'm just throwing two names out just because they just popped into my head.
Sure.
Al Snow and Tommy Dreamer.
I don't know if they can get the. I don't know if they're going to get the same exact rate or as often as they would. You know what I mean? And let's face it. I mean. Neither one of, Al Snow, great guy, and Tommy Dreamer, great guy, but Tommy neither one of them had the WCW run that I had,
Yeah.
I mean, Al's always been portrayed, low end of the card, and Tommy, other than ECW, which I also did, but I also stepped out of that with WCW.
Yeah, the thing with Al, though, is Al got tremendous notoriety from the Tough Enough that they totally botched because he could have been something when they came off that show.
I also think that I also have a very unique character. I also think that I was so critically, so crucially, not crucially, what's the right word? So brutally underused that I think people, instead of it hurting me, I think it actually helped me.
It didn't hurt you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think where people actually go, where people just, instead of going, oh, he's low in the card, I think they completely dismissed it. You know what I mean? It's like, when I grew up watching wrestling, when I was Chief Jay Strong was my hero, right, as a little kid. But then they started jobbing him out at the end, and you're like, he's the jobber now, and you lose that the luster comes off him. Except that I think being shut down in my prime instead of losing my luster, people just went, that's fucking stupid,
Yeah.
Do you ever get to watch Ohio Valley?
No. I heard, I don't know. I mean, I think Courtney's got a great mind, I don't know. I really haven't got around to watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Brian, speaking of Ohio Valley, did you see the show from last week?
No, I'm watching tonight.
Oh, well, you'll love last week's show. Seriously, do you guys? That is a tape to see. It'll be the show that aired this past Saturday night of not last night, but a week ago of Ohio Valley Wrestling. That was a great 1-hour television show.
What about the deal? What's the deal with Portland Wrestling now?
Portland Wrestling is gone. It was officially canceled just a couple days ago.
Really?
Yeah, the new TV station was sold, and the new owners decided that wrestling was not in. What was the term, Brian?
Well, Portland Wrestling was not. I don't know. Let me go find the exact term. They didn't want Portland Wrestling, but they don't mind having Afterburn and that sort of thing.
That's disappointing. I was hoping to get booked there just for old time's sake.
That would have been great.
Yeah. Let's go to Mike in Rockville, Maryland. Mike, what's going on?
Hi, Dave. I think I know the answer. Is it DDP versus Goldberg the night after Halloween Havoc on Nitro?
No, but that got a really good rating, too.
Yeah, I remember reading there's maybe a conspiracy to purposely cut off that match in a lot of areas.
The WWE, okay, the WWE, yeah, a lot of the pay-per-view companies cut it off because they, who was it? Was Jay Hassman? Somebody was supposed to give the word to the pay-per-view companies that they were going to swerve everybody and go 20 minutes long or half an hour long on that pay-per-view, and somehow the signals got crossed, and they ended up cutting off many parts of the, probably most of the systems cut off that match. And the WWE, it was a total fiasco, and then the WWE the next morning was just like, did you see that dirty trick they played to try to win the ratings? And it's like, they're costing themselves millions. And the funny thing is that in hindsight, if they would have thought of that, they probably would have done that, except that really wasn't the plan. It was just one of those things.
That's WCW, right?
Somebody ought to write a book about WCW, and they should have written it a couple of years ago, and they should have handed it to Vince and forced him to read it, because a lot of stuff that's happening...
I don't think he would have read it.
No.
I read it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I have one question for Raven.
Sure.
I just wanted to... This is not to say that I certainly don't enjoy you as a wrestler as well, but I actually enjoyed your announcing also when you did that in the WWE, mostly because everyone they have now is so horrible. I was wondering if maybe when you decide your wrestling career is over, if you would ever go back to being an announcer.
Sure, once it was over, that was my whole point then was I still had a career left. I still got at least 5 good years left. Why do it now? It's not something I want to. It's not something that I enjoy. I don't enjoy it anywhere near the level I do performing.
Right.
When you're done with wrestling, do you want to write for wrestling? Because I know you could do it. I mean, no, you don't. Okay.
Because you know why? I would if I could have, some sort of complete control. I mean, not complete control, but some sort of semblance of control over what I wrote. Like, I'd hate to turn in what I know to be a good idea and have them, just categorically go, that sucks. Or we're not going to use it. It's one thing if they tweak it and make it better, but to birth something that is in your mind is as good as it's going to be, and them just like the couple ideas. Man, my 7 Deadly Sins idea I came up with, actually Ed the writer came up with the genesis of because he set off the movie. He said, I got this great idea because of the movie. And, man, I put my heart and soul into this idea that, man, it was one of the best things I'd ever come up with in 15 years in the business. And Vince, when I told Vince was like, wow. He goes, I want you to quit Heat tonight. I was supposed to go out and put Lawler over in Memphis. And he goes, I don't want you to do a clean job. I want you to take the count out, which, of course, in Lawler's book ends up me being an egomaniac, and I didn't want to, or at least that's what I heard. I didn't read it, but
that is what it says.
We did a job for him.
Yeah.
But whatever. I got to work with him on some indie shows, so I'll show him then. Anyway, and Vince was like, wow, man, this is unbelievable. So, we're going to start this thing, we're going to make it big, and then the next week he comes up to me and goes, listen, we're going to do it on Heat instead. So apparently in that week, somebody had gotten to him and said that I wasn't qualified to pull this off. There was too big a thing for me, which I believe was Pat. Because Pat just didn't get my gimmick. Even though he was a 67-year-old guy, how's he going to get it? But that's beside the point.
We got to head to a break right now, okay?
All right.
All right, we'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And our special guest this week is Raven. And we're going to go back to the calls. We're going to John in Chicago. John, what's going on?
Hey, guys. First of all, happy Easter to everybody and happy Passover, too. So.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, I know this is probably a foolish question to ask, but do they have any idea after Backlash of what's going to happen? I'm talking about Midsummer.
Yes, actually they do.
They do.
I mean, I don't know it all, but yeah, they, I think Hunter's got his, most of the rest of his year planned. Now, as far as anyone else, I don't know.
So, is he going to, trade the belt back and forth with Kevin Nash? And then...
He might. Like I said, I don't know, but, he's going with Kevin Nash, and then he's going with Bill Goldberg, so he's got the rest of his year planned, actually.
I mean, the thing I don't understand is, and I read things on the net that seemed like almost they were planted by the organization in a way. It's just like, well, we've got to go with these proven guys because, nobody else is proven,
Well, no one will ever be proven unless they are put in a position to make it work.
It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I'm like, if you're saying these guys are going to give ratings and everything like that, look at the actual evidence, and just say, if this isn't the time to experiment, if this isn't the time to try something different,
Yeah, well, I agree with you. This is the time to try something different, but something different is whoever they can dredge up from the past.
Right, I guess. And also
dredge up. I don't know if that's a good word, but
yeah. And also, real quick, Dave. I was wondering. Did you ever have in the Observer a review of Rock's movie Scorpion King? And
I never did. Brian did.
I did.
Yeah, I didn't. I should have.
Because I was always wondering what people thought in the business and what your opinion of his acting in the movie was. Because when I saw it, I was surprised how stiff he was compared to the promos he does, and I'm assuming. Later on, as he gets, more used to this acting and everything, he'll be a lot smoother. But I thought, he's so much better live when he has an audience to interact with. It's almost like live theater with him. He seems not to do. I don't know. Again, this. He's a novice at this. But
he's a good study. He's a quick study, though. I think he'll get better.
Yeah, but what do you think? Well, do you know how long his contract is with the organization? Is he?
I'm not sure how long this one. I'm not sure how long it goes.
Because I mean, is it just going to be like now for like the next few years? He's just going to do his one appearance, for a couple months.
It depends. It depends on what kind of offers he has outside of wrestling. He's gonna, those offers outside of wrestling are far more lucrative than wrestling. So that's what he's going to take.
Right. So I mean, after Goldberg, I'm assuming then probably.
Oh, he's off for probably the rest of the year.
Right. We won't see him until the push to.
Until he comes back and gets some time off. Yeah.
Well, I mean, probably WrestleMania 20.
Probably WrestleMania 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Royal Rumble, but that time. Yeah, that time of the year. Yeah.
Okay. So. All right. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay, you're very welcome. We're going to go to Paul in Mammoth Junction, New Jersey. What's going on?
So what's happening, Dave?
No, not too much.
Whatchamacallit? My guess for the trivia question, is it The Rock on That 70s Show?
Actually, that's an interesting guess, but that's not it either. This actually was.
I'm having a hard time hearing the callers again.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. First off, Dave, I just wanted to tell you that The Observer from this week was probably the best one that I ever read.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I really look forward to those history pieces. They're one of my favorite.
I'm doing another one. I'm going to do another one in a couple of weeks.
All right. Well, I'll be sure to re-up before then. And I also wanted to tell Brian that that Figure 4 was great this week too.
Brian, did you hear that?
I can't hear him.
Okay. You can't hear him?
No.
Okay. He said Figure 4 was great this week. I haven't got it yet.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I went away and I ended up bringing Sports Illustrated because I didn't get my Figure 4 in time.
Wow.
Tomorrow. So yeah, I'll get it tomorrow. Yeah.
I guess my question is, do you think they'll ever really pull the trigger on Benoit? Like maybe this summer or something?
No. That's my answer.
Okay.
If they were going to, it would have already happened.
All right. Well, yeah. I just figured that with Angle going down, they really don't have anything for Lesnar over the summer. So.
Well, I think he'll be. I think that Benoit will work with Brock Lesnar at some point. I think that's inevitable. But as far as go any further, I just don't think that they think that he's at that level.
Do you ever see Jericho going over on top again?
No, I don't. I think that's the same. I think it's the same thing. I think that they don't see him at that. They see him very close to that level, and I think he'll always be very near the top. And they know he's very entertaining. But as far as the guy, I just think that they have it in their heads that he's not the guy. And
you're talking about Jericho.
We're talking about Jericho, yes.
All right, well, I don't want to take up any more time, but tell Raven I'll look forward to seeing him on Wednesday, and I'll look forward to getting the newsletters.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We are going to go to Anthony in Long Island. Anthony, what's going on?
Hey, guys, what's going on?
Not too much.
I was thinking about possibly, didn't they have a match, two ideas came to mind. Didn't they have a match on with Jay Leno on his show?
They never did have a match. They were supposed to, but that was when Owen Hart died. Bret Hart was supposed to do something, and
they canceled it.
And they canceled it because he was flying to Los Angeles, and when he got off the plane,
that's right.
Eric Bischoff met him and said, your brother just died, and he flew back home to Calgary.
The other thing I was thinking was, early on, didn't they have a match, like maybe during halftime of one of the XFL games when the ratings were still kind of high?
No, I don't think they ever did. Do you guys remember? No, I don't think they ever had a match at halftime of an XFL game.
Okay, I thought that.
And the XFL ratings were not. They were only high the first week.
I thought it was the second week when they did it, but
they were already down the second week. The wrestling ratings were above the XFL by week 2.
Hey, Dave, wanted to ask you guys, how come they don't? Growing up, they used to show some midget wrestling,
yes,
which was good. It had its moments, but how come did they ever think about bringing some of that back?
Well, the last time they did, they brought in the minis from Mexico, but they didn't use them to their best advantage.
Is that a politically correct type of thing? Is that why they're not doing that?
No, I think it's just
which probably wouldn't stop them if it was.
No, I think that they just don't use them. It's the mindset of probably Vince Jr. and Eric Bischoff was the same way. I mean, they didn't want to use them.
Yeah. Last thing, maybe you could have Raven, I don't know if he can hear me, but talk a little bit about Global and what that was like starting out there.
Raven, did you hear that?
No.
Okay, he's wondering about your experience with Global and what was that like?
That was interesting. I mean, it was a good diversion. It's a shame that they didn't have the money that they thought they had. But it was fun while it lasted,
Of all the territories that you worked, let's say, before WCW, what was the most, in hindsight, the most beneficial? Was it Portland or was it someplace else?
ECW, probably.
Okay. No, I mean before
before
WCW the first time is what I meant. But okay.
Portland. Yeah, Portland definitely put me on the map.
Yeah.
Hey, on a sidebar, before I forget, I want to mention that I don't have a website. Like, I keep having there's websites devoted to me and stuff, but they're not mine. Like I was talking to this girl the other day, and I guess she must have been online having a conversation with me for the last year. And I'm like, it wasn't me. I'm really sorry to tell you that. So if anybody thinks that they're talking to me online, they're not, because I don't even know how to turn my computer on.
You may have really missed out this past year.
There's so many things on the web. Oh my God. Brian, whatever happened, speaking of that, what's going on with you in the web? Anything?
I'll tell you later.
Okay. We're going to go to Brian in Oakley, California. Brian, what's going on?
How you guys doing tonight?
Doing really good.
All right, qualifying a little information on the trivia question. Was it a segment or a match?
It was a match.
Was it?
It was not like it was not a comedy segment or anything like that with wrestlers. It's not like Rock on Saturday Night Live. No.
Right. I'm going to guess when WCW did the whole thing with Baywatch.
That was way back a million years ago, wasn't it?
I was just asking. I don't know.
But it's not the answer anyway.
Okay.
Hey, what was the rating on the Chris Taylor match in Wide World of Sports?
I have no idea. But that was we were talking the last 5 years.
I know. I was just curious.
I mean, probably really good because Wide World of Sports was super popular back in the early 70s.
Right.
Yeah. So I would bet that in the early 70s that would have been the most. That might have been one of the most watched, if not the most watched, because it was on. Because in those days nothing went national. It was the only thing that would have gone national.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I had a quick question for Raven. I don't know if he can hear me. It's a pleasure to talk to him. What are his thoughts? I know he worked for a little bit for XPW, and I know they're having some problems right now. But while he was there, what are some good things that he saw? There, and you guys that
he was wondering what your thoughts were on XPW.
Positive thoughts.
I don't know. I was supposed to work for him yesterday, but apparently the show was canceled. Although no one's told me, so maybe it did happen.
It was canceled, from what I heard.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they got indicted on some porno charges, so...
No indictment, they just got raided. We're only at the raiding stage so far. Oh, my God, I got to tell you guys this story. It's got nothing to do with anything. Brian, do you know who Scott Peterson is?
No.
The name sounds familiar.
The guy who just murdered his wife.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He was sitting behind me at Frank Shamrock's fight a couple weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, just sitting there drinking beers. Didn't say a word. His friends were obnoxious as hell, though.
Wow.
Yeah. But,
and who is this guy?
Scott Peterson, the guy, he's like the lead story in every newscast. The guy who killed his wife out here.
Oh.
And his baby on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, that's my local one.
Or is under indictment. He was just arrested the other day. Anyway, I'm sorry I brought that up.
That's a big downer.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys have a good evening. Happy holiday.
Okay, thank you very much. We are going to go to a break. We're going to come back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome to our final segment of Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly. We got Raven as our special guest. And we're going to get to as many calls as we can, which won't be too many because we're running out of time. We're going to Justin in Oil City, Pennsylvania. Justin, what's going on?
Dave, hi.
Hi.
Did somebody already guess that 70s show when Rock was on?
Yes, and that's not the answer.
Too bad, but it's got to be one of those weird ones like that.
It's not as weird as that.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know.
It's weird in a different way.
Is Benoit going to get on the pay-per-view?
I don't know yet. I guess we'll find out on Tuesday. I don't know if Benoit's going to be on the pay-per-view at all.
He could fight Rhino.
Possibly.
He could fight Matt Hardy.
Yeah, Matt Hardy's not on the pay-per-view either.
What happened to his program with Ray? Isn't that...
It got curtailed.
Will we get the Big Show?
They had to do something with Big Show.
That's right.
That's true. Are you going to give the answer before you go off? Or...
Yes, I am going to give the answer in about 2 minutes.
All right, I'm
going to wait till the very, very end of the show after we've taken all the calls.
That's right. We're going to go to Jeff in Prospect, Connecticut, because he's going to try to get it.
Hi.
Hi.
All right, this is like really thinking really way out of the box, but I'm going to say from the movie Spider-Man, Christopher Daniels versus the Macho Man.
No, that wasn't, because that's not on television.
Well, didn't say it had to be on television.
Yes, I did. That's the most watched television. Yeah, I did say that.
So. All right. Well, my first question, I was wondering, what show had the bigger attendance, WrestleMania 3 or SummerSlam in Wembley Stadium?
SummerSlam in Wembley Stadium.
How many did that draw?
I think 78,927.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
My second question was for Raven. I don't know if you can hear me, but when he first came into the WWF in '93, whose decision was it to make him a manager and later work in production and not be a wrestler?
Did you hear that one, Scott? He wants to know whose decision it was when you came into the WWF in the first time to make you Johnny Polo a manager and then have you work in production and not be a full-time wrestler.
Not mine.
I know that one. Yeah, you left a regular job there to go to ECW, which most people at that time would not have done.
And then I walked out on WCW to go back to ECW, so I wasn't happy then either.
That's right. So you made moves. Realistically, if you knew now what you knew then, I'm sure you would have walked out of WWF this last time too for this. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have no problem walking out. Now that I'm getting older, I got to worry about my future, so I got to make my money, but. Before that, I was never really worried about the money. I did it because I enjoyed doing it. And when it became no fun, I had to move on. Although, in hindsight, the one thing I would have done differently is when I left WCW and went to ECW, first of all, I wouldn't have left, like in hindsight. But that's a big hindsight because then I could have left with Benoit and we got big money. But that you can't count on. But the one true thing that I wish I would have done differently was when I left ECW the second time to go to New York, if I would have known that they weren't helping out anybody from the mid-card down, if I would have realized Russo's influence on the fact that everybody from, in the mid-card and down was getting, used, and if I realized that was all Russo, and it was, I would have went to work for Russo in WCW, which actually I probably would have got $500 to $1 million a year from Vince, because Vince is always a big mark for my talent, and probably been a main eventer, if not a title holder. So
we got to get out of here. We're totally out of time. I want to thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to get you back on as soon as possible. And the answer to the question is Alexander Karelin against Rulon Gardner at the Olympics. We'll be back.